Hi, my name's Eddie. Um, I became a kidney donor around about 2004, 2005. It's about the time a high-profile sportsman was in renal failure and we needed to have a kidney donation. About then, I actually asked my wife what she thought about me donating a kidney, and initially she wasn't too happy about it. But things I also heard a little bit later on about a friend of ours whose daughter who was in renal failure. She had the same blood group as me, and I suggested that she could have one of my kidneys. To prepare for the donor testing process, we had to make sure that the recipient and I both had the same blood group and the same tissue typing. So we had to coordinate our bloods to be given on the same day so they could be tested in the lab at the same time, mix her blood and my blood to see how it was all going to go. So the hard thing was actually making sure that we were doing that. She lived in another town, so I just had to make sure that she was going in. So I get a phone call to say she was going in to do her bloods today. Could I go in and do my bloods today as well? Fortunately, I worked in a hospital, so for me it was easy just to nip across to the lab and say, I've come to do my donor blood. And then we'd just get it all ticked off and got it all sent away. The other thing that I had to do as well was get a psychological report to make sure that I was doing it for all the right reasons, not doing it for self-fulfillment, not doing it for trying to make myself out to be great. We decided that we were going to donate, I was going to donate my kidney, but the only people that were going to know was the donor family and the recipient families. Nobody else, friends or anybody, knew about it. We kept it very quiet. And that was till about a year after I donated the kidney. The recipient and I were talking about how few kidneys were being transplanted, and we had a wee bit of a chat about whether we should be talking in a raising awareness of live kidney donation. After surgery, I was off work for about 6 weeks. After I'd had the pre-op CTs, I'd actually decided that my left kidney's renal artery and veins were just a little bit too short to be able to take my kidney and have enough of those little vessels left to be able to transplant into the recipient. So they took my right kidney, and at the time to take the right kidney, they had to open you up. So instead of it being done by keyhole surgery, which is predominantly done like that these days, I had to have a 6-inch wound from my belly button round my flank so that they could actually open me up and take my kidney out. Hurt like buggery, but you know, I had an epidural infusion in my back, so when I needed to have pain relief, I just pushed the button and it squirted a little bit of local anaesthetic into my back, and it just numbed the wound. And then a few days later, when I was discharged, I had to get on an aeroplane, and I made sure that I shoved a pillow under my jersey so that when I was on the aeroplane, I could keep my tummy supported while it was bouncing down the runway and taking off and flying. And I tried to make sure that I had a window seat so that nobody would walk past and knock me in the tummy. So yeah, it was a little bit sore for a while, but you know, all surgery is. As I was off work for 6 weeks, financially it wasn't too bad because around 2004 the ministry brought in an allowance. So what I did was I received that benefit, the first one in the country to receive it, and I used my sick leave to top it up to my full salary. So the time that I was off for 6 weeks, I was receiving an allowance and used my sick leave, which I had plenty of. Had to discuss it with my boss to let him know what I was doing, so that they were aware what was happening. The best advice I can give to anybody considering being a live kidney donor is do it. It hasn't affected my life whatsoever. I do annual blood and urine tests. Get a note from a GP once a year asking me to do those. Because I do a lot of cycling, sometimes the numbers are a little bit haywire, so she asked me to do another test after I've been off the bike for a few days, and they come back fine. It doesn't going to make a huge difference to the person receiving your kidney. You know, you've got they've got their whole life to live ahead of them, and they need every help they can get. Receiving your kidney is one way that they can do that.